new BCA or QMC's candidate management system that we're going to be rolling out over the next few months. So trainer assessors have been given access to this at the moment, so you get your heads around the system a little bit. And the idea is to give you a range of training videos, and then some online sessions as well, so we can get everybody up to speed on how the system works before we make it live for all the other candidates. So just to show you around a few things to start with, on the front page, then obviously got your login, username and password, so you should have had that emailed to you. But I just want to point out some of these other bits and pieces. There's some links here. So there's a link here that takes you to the BCA website, this one to the Facebook page. This one takes you to the local cave and mine leader and CIC scheme training pages. This one to a coach lookup, so we'll come on to that later on. This one, an email straight to Mary to training admin, and this one to a YouTube channel. And the idea of this is to put a load of these videos into that YouTube channel so that we can show people how the system works. So if a candidate was coming into this fresh, they could click into the sign up button here, and this is the screen that they get where we'd ask people to put their first name, surname, email address, contact details, and all the rest of it. And then click sign up, and that'll take them into the system. So as a trainer assessor, you should have had your login details. So you can access the site just by clicking login here. So if we can just show you a few of the sort of basic features today, and then we'll do some further videos on a little bit more depth into the system. So here we've got our comedy user. You can see they've got the first name and surnames coming up the side here. We've got a photograph, so if you want, you can pick your own photograph to pop into here. It's worth being mindful that the photograph will appear on the coach lookup system, so it's worth being a little bit careful about what you use. This is your membership number, so this is really important. This will be driving the system now, so all your other membership numbers, and quite a few people had quite a lot of different numbers, they're still retained in the system, and we can get them to print out onto your certificates as well moving forward, so those numbers aren't lost. But now we've just got the one particular, or the one number that guides people right the way through the whole system. On your basic details here, you can update these by just clicking the update button here, so you can change your first name, your surname, your email address, and all of these other bits and pieces. It was worth just pointing out that with the naming, you can only have a first name and a last name. So if you've got more than one first name, you can either put both names into the first name box here, or you can put both into the last name. It's worth being aware that any email that is sent, it will take the first name and use that in the address of the email. So in this instance, it would say hi first name, for example, or a hi name, for example. Whereas your certificates will have both your first name and your surname. If we have a look at some of the other bits and pieces that are here, we've got a section here for emergency contacts. So if you wanted to put details of an emergency contact, you could do. This is not something that we expect to use at all. Some of these things are just systemic. So same with the equality again. If you want to fill this in, you're more than welcome to, and the opt-ins as well. If you want to receive Go membership news. We're not really intending to ask people to fill in anything like this for the scheme just yet. There's no real intentions to put newsletters or anything like that together. The other two areas that are really critical are your credentials and your qualifications. Now, a credential is essentially a module. So for example, your cave leader training would be a credential, your module 1 assessment would be a credential, your module 2 assessment would be a credential, although we're actually renaming those to core skills and group day assessment to try and keep things as clear and as simple as possible for candidates. So they're the stepping stones towards a qualification. And once you've completed either a certain amount of credentials or on your final credential, then a qualification would be awarded, and these would appear here. Now, in this particular instance, we can see that these are orange, they're in progress, or they're pending approval. And that's because candidates can actually upload their own credentials. So if you've got credentials that are missing, that haven't been transferred into the new system from the historic database, then you can come into here. You can pick the credentials off the side. So hopefully these all make sense to you. They shouldn't be horrendously different from the historic system. And you can add these credentials to your profile. So to do that, you need to click on the credential, follow it through. You will need to put in the person who delivered the course, when the course took place, and then you'll also need to upload some evidence to back that up. That'll then go to Mary. Mary will be able to check that, and provided that information is correct and everything matches, then she can approve that credential, so it can then be added to your profile. Same being true of qualifications. So if there are any qualifications missing, then again you can go through into the add qualifications bit, and you can pick your qualifications from the list. It's worth having a little look at these lists, because this outlines the way that we're going to be wording the scheme moving forward. So you can see that we're going for local cave leader, local mine leader, local cave and or mine leader, and that's because it's a qualification that will add on to either your mine leader or your cave leader, or if you've got both, to both. All the other qualifications will probably be exactly the same as, or pretty much exactly the same as these have historically been. But some of the things to notice is that we have got then trainer assessor qualifications, and that's the route that we're going to take with this, is to give people a qualification based on what level they can work at as a trainer assessor. So some of the other things to have a little look at the system, member details. So this is an area that we can put quite a lot of information into, really. So at the moment, you can see that these fields here, we can click on these and we can add whatever numbers that we want into them. Your old cave leader or mine leader registration number and registration date will hopefully have pulled through, but some of these bits of data were quite difficult to get hold of. Your CIC number should have pulled through, and your trainer assessor number. So if they haven't, then you can click onto these fields and you can add them. Now, in some cases, some of these fields are grayed out, so you can't actually click on them like this section here. And the feedback, for example, which I'll come on to in a minute. And that's because we can actually lock these down so that only a few people can actually add information to them. We've got these tick boxes at the bottom here as well. So this is the coach finder, and this is actually a separate website. If we click on this bit here, you can see it saying at the moment it's not active, so we've only got the system admin in here. But this is where an employer can come in and have a little look to check to see if you've got the qualifications that you say you've got. You can also take a bit of code, or we'll make a bit of code available for you to put into your own website if you want to have your current qualifications linked into a website of your own. This section here is downloads and links. So these are just buttons that you can click on that will take you to either PDF files that we've created. So you can see that we've created some PDF files of logbooks that people can print out if they want to have a physical logbook. Although our hope is that we're going to try and persuade most candidates to start moving towards like a spreadsheet logbook, so it's a little bit easier to share. Course feedback. Again, you can see these boxes are greyed out, but these will be essentially replacing the S4B forms and the opportunity for trainer assessors to make any notes on the candidate's profile on what they did do, any particular training or assessment course, any areas of weaknesses, any things that they need to improve on, or anything that worked really well. And the nice thing about this is that we then end up with a pretty clear narrative, so you can see a pathway that candidates have taken. Now, this information is only available to the candidates and trainer assessors. So as a trainer assessor coming in, if you were doing a candidate's group day assessment for their Mind Leader Award, for example, you could look back and see what the previous trainer assessors have said about their training course and their core skills assessment. And the next section's here then, and this behaves peculiarly on the website. We just have to make it a little bit bigger to get all the buttons to appear. So we can see the more's come up here. So what we've got here is the different regions, and it's got a list of all the cave systems and mine systems within those regions. And the purpose of this really is if a candidate does a training or assessment course with you, or at the end of their assessment, as a trainer assessor, you'll be able to go in and you'll be able to click onto these buttons. So you can activate whichever cave or mine system candidates are actually qualified to lead groups in. And then when a candidate goes to print off their certificate, a list of the approved caves or mines, or caves or mines that a candidate is qualified for will pull through onto their certificate, and it'll ignore all the ones that haven't been ticked. Now, we haven't got this information pulled through into the system from the historic data. It was impossible to pull it through, so this is going to present a body of work for us to do over the coming sort of months or years as we transition people into the scheme. The trainer assessors will need to add and check that the information that we've got in these areas is filled in properly. Okay, the other bit to have a look at just for now is membership. And this is where candidates will come in and, when they're new to the scheme, come in and register. So they click on the button here, they can see what they're actually what they're registering for, and we're looking at a single fee now for both the Cave and Mine Leader and CIC scheme, rather than different payments. If candidates want at this stage, they can purchase a logbook. Once they're done, they can go through to the payment section and then just pay for that. Although they will probably only want to register once. And then they can pay by card here. Now, at the moment, this bit isn't actually activated, but once it is, then any payments that are made will go straight into the VCA's account. So it's worth highlighting the trainer assessors membership here. This is only available to people who've got the appropriate qualifications for yourselves, and you should all have this membership purchased for you at the moment. And this is essentially how we'll be managing the trainer assessor fees moving forward. So you'll be able to come into here, click onto this section, and pay for your annual trainer assessor fees. Once you've done that, then you'll be able to add courses to the system and manage candidates through the system. So the last little bit to look at here is up on the menu section. You can see some of these areas we've looked at. So the profile and memberships on these different tiles. Inquiries is a mechanism to communicate with with Mary. The cart and payment history is all sort of should make sense. We've got a document library, and at the moment we've put a few things in here, although we're not too sure whether we'll keep them in this section or whether we'll actually try and keep everything in one place on the BCA website and just have links. But these two tiles are some of the ones that we're going to talk on in a lot more depth in some of the future videos. I can just quickly show you them now. So the course authorization, this user is just a trainee, so they haven't got access to this area, so you can see it just blocks them. But what a candidate can do is they can go to the events and courses here, or they can click on the button on the events and courses here as well if they want. And what we've got here then is a range of featured courses. So these are basically where we'll be advertising the update workshops. And if a candidate wants, they can click onto one of these update workshops and they can book themselves onto it. So you can see this has actually come up saying unavailable. And the reason for that is if we click on that, you can see that we don't meet the prerequisites. So what the system does is it checks to see that you've got the right credentials and qualifications in place and that they are valid in that they haven't expired. And for you to be able to book yourself onto a course, you actually need to satisfy those prerequisites. Otherwise, you just can't book yourself onto the course. As a new candidate coming into the scheme, you can scroll down here and have a look at the categories. So you can see if you want to do your Mine Leader training course, you click onto the Mine Leader. If you want to do a Cave Leader training course, you click onto Cave Leader. And then these are broken down into the regions. So if you wanted to do one in North Wales, you could just click on here to see if there are any available. Or if you want to go into a different region, you can click on, find yourself a course and book yourself onto it. Now, there's a whole host of things with these. We can set the dates that courses expire. We can set a certain number of rules on them. We can advertise them on the Go membership system, or we can just run them in the background so that they're not advertised. So if you've got a course that you are running for a centre or a certain provider, or a course that is full, then you can still put the course onto the system, and you'll need to put the course onto the system because that's how we evidence that candidates have moved their way through the scheme. But it's not advertised at the front end, so nobody can see it going. The intention here is not to take any payments from this system, but for candidates to book themselves onto it, that candidate will, or an automated email will then come to you to say that the candidate has booked onto the course, and then you can then go into the system and either accept that candidate, or you can bomb them off if they, haven't paid their deposits or whatever. So we're going to leave that to trainer and assessors to manage. We're going to propagate this up with some generic information about the training courses. We're working on this at the moment, and the idea of this really is that we replace the current handbook and we just have the pertinent information on the in the right place on the system, so candidates can see what courses they're booking on and what that course is all about. And our thinking on this is to make those downloadable as well from the BCA website. So if you're doing a Cave Leader training, then you can find all the information that you need about a Cave Leader training just by clicking on the one button. So I think that's probably about it for now. So by all means, have a good look around the system, see if you can get yourselves familiar with it. Don't stress too much if you've got too many questions. We'll certainly have opportunities to work those through with you in the coming sort of months. Again, the idea being that we get trainer assessors familiar with the system before we release it to the rest of the candidates. Okay, cheers.